Playoff hopes dying in the desert for the Ducks. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Oregon football with the Civil War straight ahead. But of course, a cataclysmic night in the desert taking on Arizona State. We got James Voss on the line. You can catch him at Autzen Zoo. It's on the Fansided Network for Oregon football. James, how are you doing personally? And then football-wise, I guess we can guess that.
Yes. Thanks for having me on, Mark. Personally, it's a pretty okay Sunday. Perspective, of course. The Ducks went down to the desert, and as a handful of Ducks teams in the past 10, 20 years, they struggled. And unfortunately, what was a pretty incredible run coming off that loss initially to Auburn, the Ducks found it hard, as a lot of other Pac-12 teams have recently, to run the table in the conference. And got to give it to Arizona State. Herm Edwards clearly knows how to coach a game, and they played their game plan exactly the way that they set it out, the way that they told the broadcast crew. They talked about possessing the ball. They talked about just the way an NFL team would win a game. And that's pretty much how Herm Edwards and his staff did, and really have to hand it to them. The Ducks, while that run was going on, I think a lot of fans and a lot of people around the country were willing to ignore the fact that Oregon may have not really put together a full four-quarter game all year, and they didn't again in Tempe. They pretty much showed up in the fourth quarter, and that came back to bite them.
To your point about Herm Edwards, I saw a statistic during the game that despite, let's see, a 7-5 regular season last year and a 5-5 football team coming into this game, that he was 4-4 against ranked opponents. So when 500 teams are going 4-4 against ranked opponents, that tells you something right now. So I guess that number's at 5-4 now. So he gets his team up for those kind of settings. Of course, he wasn't the coach, but 2 years ago, Washington in 2017 went to the desert with college football playoff hopes, and those ended in a similar fashion. So I think some of us had kind of eyed that game as, no, they are not as good as Oregon, but on a given night, this could happen. James, the focus of the loss probably already is and will be quarterback Justin Herbert and some of the bad decision-making that he made. He's probably taking too much of the blame, as is typically the deal with playing quarterback. Your thoughts about his performance against the Sun Devils?
Yeah, I think this game, more than any other in his career, is probably where he deserves a little bit more of the blame, just especially early in the game. And once again, the broadcast crew really did a good job of highlighting it. He wasn't getting his feet set. He seemed to be keying on Juwan Johnson a lot really early on. And that's been something that he's struggled with last year as well. But I think more than just his performance, of course, execution is definitely a job of the quarterback. He just seemed to take the game plan that was being given to him, whether it was Arroyo or Cristobal making the play calls. And even when we were abandoning the run and we were running those screen passes, especially early, he rushed himself, it felt. And I think this game, more than any other in his career, probably where the blame lies.
Talking Oregon football, of course, the Ducks coming off a disappointing loss in the desert against Arizona State. We got James Voss on the line from Autzen Zoo. Please join him and the rest of the staff right there on Fansided. The other things that stood out to me, and I watched probably 80% of the game, was that what is arguably the best offensive line in the Pac-12, one of the top 5 in the country. There were a few short yardage situations and some other aspects of the game. And of course, you're not going to win every play at the line of scrimmage, but it appeared to me against a defense that had just been ravaged in recent weeks, as though they weren't able to get the movement and block the plays as well as you would expect against that level of defense and how much they've struggled in recent weeks.
I think that's an interesting point, especially early, that 4th and 1 play where Cristobal and the staff opted not to kick a field goal in a short yardage situation in the red zone. They wanted to run it down their throats, which has been a personality that Cristobal has really tried to bring to Oregon. I think, especially early on in drives throughout the rest of the game, CJ Verdell, Travis Dye, and Cyrus Abibi-Likio, the running backs, were following an offensive line that was getting pushed, that was giving them 7 yards, 8 yards, getting them the first down. But after that first down, or even second first down of those drives, we seemed to stall, or Oregon seemed to stall a little bit. And Arroyo or Cristobal, whoever was really dictating the game plan, it's hard to say because it's flipped back and forth as of late. But they went to the pass, and went to the short pass. And the screen passes, which have proved to be successful. But Arizona State had a lot of film clearly on that, and they keyed on it. And I think it's not so much the offensive line as they protected Herbert pretty well. They only gave up 2 sacks, which is the same that Arizona State themselves gave up. And while they have a very much younger offensive line, who clearly dealt with a lot of penalties last night, I think the push that the offensive line was getting in the run game early on in drives was kind of being buried as the game plan kind of drifted away from them. And so I think it may be deceiving to say that they were beat or really struggled with Arizona State's defensive line. I think they played very well, and they have. It was interesting just to see Oregon kind of drift away from them.
Christmas is coming, folks. Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section below to help us build the channel. We got James Voss on the line. You can join James at Autzen Zoo on the Fansided Network for Oregon football. Of course, the Civil War is coming.